This is a series of conversations between me and a friend. We're a couple of aging gamers that have been friends since the dawn of the 8-bit era when we were 11 years old. Basically, this is just an excuse for us to get together, play games, and talk about them. This is episode 0. There was no particular topic, just the two of us getting together to discuss what we might like to play. Typically on this channel, we'll be digging through piles of shovelware and other ancient titles in search of hidden gems that we wouldn't have given the time of day in the past.
Yo.
What's up?
Nothing. You drinking some Hell by Bruce Willis?
You know it. Straight hell. I've wanted to do something like this with you for a long time, but been too lazy to do it.
Cool.
I think the two of us actually bring something different in that, first of all, we've been fucking friends for
Long
like 35 fucking years. And we literally started just by video games. Like,
yeah.
I remember, like, I don't know if it was the first time we actually hung out, but I know it was the first time that I spent the night over at your house. You guys had just bought like Karnov like the week before. And
Okay.
it was like, you were like, it's too easy. Like, and you beat it. And I think your brothers beat it too. And you had your mom, she drove us to Toys R Us and you returned it and got Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And that was the first time I spent the night at your house.
So that was spring 6th grade.
It was fall.
Was it fall 6th grade?
Yeah. Tyson's
Well,
Punch Out.
no. I can tell you, the only reason I can tell you it wasn't is because I didn't have an NES until Christmas 6th grade.
Well, then that was the first time I spent the night at your house.
And the only reason I know that I got it for 6th grade, this is the stupidest, geekiest story ever, but I actually made with different layers of paper during 6th grade, like in November, I made a custom advent calendar where each day you would open up a window. It was a picture of an NES and a controller and a TV. And each day was like something to do with Castlevania or Kung Fu or Super Mario. And I can remember, you know how like on advent calendars, the biggest window or door is saved for the 24th or the 25th of the last one. And it's like the biggest prize.
Yeah.
It was like the cartridge where you open the top of the NES and put the cartridge. And it was just this message like, you finally got it. You're not going to do anything but just play all day and play all night. Yeah. Life begins now, or something like that. That was the stupidest, geekiest thing. And I remember my brothers saw that and they were like making fun of me. And I was like, you fuckers have no idea how cool this thing is going to be. We're not talking about a Colecovision here, because that's all we had up to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Kung Fu, Castlevania, Super Mario Brothers for Christmas break. We ended up getting Rygar also during Christmas break. And I think my brother and I beat it before we were done with Christmas break, maybe. We didn't beat Castlevania over Christmas break. And yeah. Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I think it was late winter, early spring.
Well, whatever it was, you traded Karnov in for it.
I had no idea that. I mean, I don't doubt it. I believe it. I remember having Karnov. I just don't remember getting rid of Karnov for that, but it makes sense.
Our friendship has revolved around video games since the beginning of it. And it's never really changed.
Even hanging out in college, like our sophomore year of college, we're driving around from social event to social event, getting ready to drink and chase girls or whatever, but you have the Sony PlayStation in your trunk. It's like, but all of our memories are tied to generations of console hardware. It's like, oh yeah, when were you seeing that girl? Oh, that was during the PlayStation era. Different video games and consoles are like the timestamps of most of my life.
It's true. And I think we have a lot of funny stories too that, like, we can get to. I don't want to burn them all out now, but like so many things that revolved around video games that we grew up with and lived through together. Like it's just funny to think about the two of us literally breaking into my brother's apartment as middle school kids all the time just to hang out and play Sega Master System.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the impacts that those experiences had on my life. Like I can remember like feeling just completely intimidated by the kinds of games that you and your brother played. Like you were playing the games that you gravitated towards on Sega systems were like games that were being played on PCs, like Phantasy Star. Like,
yeah.
Like I didn't know what an RPG was. Like I didn't know what a turn-based battle system was. But even back then, being intimidated by it, like it planted a seed. Like I wanted to get into those games. And then sure enough, like I went on this mad tear when I was, I don't know if it was maybe it was the summers between some of my college years. I would just tear through all of those games that were kind of like on this mental backlog list that I just needed to check off. So I like beat the original Phantasy Star, you know, and I beat Phantasy Star 2. And I went back and I beat like The Legend of Zelda Adventure of Link Part 2, the one that I watched at your house, I think, as a kid. I know I watched you play through the first Zelda when we were in 6th grade.
Yeah,
I can remember.
I got the Adventure of Link and beat it. So you probably did.
Yeah.
I thought you played it too.
I never bought it. I might have rented it, but I never beat it until I circled back to all those games. Like even A Link to the Past. I probably like started that game a few times and maybe got through the first couple of dungeons, but I never owned it. And then like something happened in college where I was like, oh, I'm just gonna beat all these games, and I did, and it felt good.
Also, the Mike Tyson's thing made me think was also fitting is I listened to 3 separate podcasts that were about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out in the last week. They think that the games were too hard that we grew up with.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Like, I mean, to the point of like, not that they weren't hard, they're hard, but every one of them was saying that, like, you know, if you beat Mike Tyson in this back in the day without cheating, you know, it was impossible to figure that out as, you know, by yourself as like a kid. Yeah, I mean, I'm nowhere near as good as you. I mean, beating Tyson for you is like second nature. But for me, it was like I could do it
anymore.
No, for me, I could do it, but it wasn't like it was easy. And I'm sure I could do it again if I wanted to, like today, like not like right now, but I could sit down for 3 hours and I could eventually get it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like I just was kind of survive the first round. And then I know that I can get enough punches off in the last 2 rounds to finish him. But like for you like could hit him in the first round, which I can barely ever do. So that's always impressive to me.
Yeah, no, that was fun. It's weird being from a generation that we were in a situation where we would have found out that Samus was a female just from like organically. Yeah. We would have figured it out from beating it quick enough and being like, holy shit.
I think so. I mean, I think we kind of, I mean, not us personally, but I think we did. Like, it wasn't like I saw this in Nintendo Fan Club newsletter. Like somebody found out from somebody else that did, because I was like,
probably heard it on the playground.
I was like told, right? You know.
Yeah. And then of course, if I heard it before I figured it out, I probably was determined to do it. Yeah. Right.
Sure.
You and I couldn't have. If that would have blown our minds, our 6th grade minds, we couldn't have gone home and looked it up on YouTube.
No, and I've thought about that a lot. Like I've started getting excited about playing through games again. That's stupid. I always do this like right when like, oh, PlayStation 5 is coming out. What do I want to do? I want to go back and play NES games. But somehow this always happens.
I mean, there's a reason that you and I could beat Tyson back then. It's because
I had to work up to it too, which was funny. And I know you can kind of do it by nature, but I used to have to I would do it, you know, I don't know how often you used to beat Tyson, but I would like every, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year, I'd be like, you know what, I want to do it. And I would like try and sit down and do it. Especially if I didn't just put in the code to get to him, but I wanted to get through the game and get to him. I could get all the way up to until you get to Sandman before I even had to blink or think. And then I get to Sandman and I'm like, okay, now I have to fucking pay attention. And then
Which spin is he gonna do?
And I usually would lose even like I would usually lose my first fight to Sandman and Macho Man before I would then get to Tyson, and then
yeah. I think
anyway.
that happened to me to where I would beat Tyson so often, and sometimes I just didn't have the time to go through the fighters, that when I did play through a whole playthrough starting with Glass Joe, that there was a big chunk of my younger days where Sandman and Macho Man were both a lot more difficult than Tyson, because Tyson was so ingrained in my muscle memory, and it was not intimidating at all. It was so familiar.
Tyson was a little easier than me than Macho Man, and that's just because I never really got the variable spin punch down,
right?
Because it's
if
so random,
or one of those,
right?
Like
and it's a different
11.
number, and it's not the same number each time, because he does like the short spin, and like I know there's a pattern, and I know you can tell, but like I never got that down. So every time for me, it was just a guess. It's like, okay, I have to block 3 times now. You get like a split second to go. Oh no, he's going to go again, and then you can block. Yeah. But like if you're not really focusing, you don't get that before he just hits you.
Yeah, Macho Man and Sandman still maybe intimidate me. That I'm not that good at that game anymore. The last time I played through it, where I was like really good at it, and I was surprised at myself, when I lived at that house.
Yeah.
And this was my neighbor. And he walked down, and I put in a VHS tape and started recording from Glass Joe.
Yeah.
And I went through and I beat everybody like with no problem, including Tyson. And I remember saying like, you have to save this tape forever or whatever. And of course you watch a million speed runs on YouTube that are so superior to that run. But I don't know where that tape is. I don't own a VHS tape.
But you could, you could do that again, though. It would take you time, but you could work up to that.
Oh, yeah. That's not like,
Oh, man. Yeah, I haven't played this game forever.
So.
Oh, sweet.
Well, now hang on. So let me do the math here. So have we played this game together in the last 33 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time we sat down and played this together?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we've definitely played games together. So I'm sure we've played Punch-Out together.
Yeah. We played a lot of... the last time I remember you and I binging on some NES type games was that Ikari Warriors night.
Yeah. And that's when we found the secret commando on Master System. You remember that?
It's a shame that we both got these... we have every NES game at our fingertips now, and then we went into a pandemic. Did you ever buy a game at Jeffco?
I don't know if I got games there, but that's where I got my first Transformers.
Okay, interesting. I don't remember their toys.
They had toys.
Yeah, I know. I believe it. I remember buying the Colecovision sports action controllers, the ones that you played football and baseball with, and do you know what I'm talking about? They were like,
I don't even know what you're talking about. We didn't have those.
They were like the reason that our neighbors would want to come over and play our Colecovision. I think the only 2 games that we played for them were baseball and football, and the baseball graphics were phenomenal. The perspective and what it was like it was like a handle. Think of just like a gun handle.
Yeah.
And then there was like a plastic shield, and then there was a keypad.
Okay.
And a joystick on top. And on the handle, there were 4 different buttons. And it was like, might not be remembering this right, but I feel like you could pick what kind of pitch you wanted your pitcher to pitch by pressing one of these buttons, but no one could see what you were pressing because there was this big plastic. It was awesome. But I can remember buying that. And remember Jeffco, they had the conveyor belt.
Yes.
Yeah, so I remember just like waiting down there to wait and looking up to see when those controllers were coming down. Yeah. So when you say,
I'm the same shit for my Transformers coming down that conveyor belt.
Yeah, so when you say like you can make these games, you can replicate the games in the look and the sound or whatever. You can't replicate the experience.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not.
Like I said, that memory of mine, I remember everything about that car ride with you and your mom to Toys R Us to get Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Yeah, it's not the same. And yeah, when we got that, like, we got pretty far just that first night that we were over your house. And if I remember correctly, and I could be totally wrong, this might just be a false memory. But anyway, I think when we had it that night at your place, I feel like we got to like Soda Popinski. And just like that was basically as far as we could get, and then couldn't figure out how to get through him, and I think you'd beaten it probably a week later, but the whole game. But
yeah. That's a game that my kids love watching me play.
But the other thing I was trying to think about too is like I know that we spent so much time playing the games together, and I'm trying to think of what games we played the most of together. And I know we played Tyson a lot when we were younger. And I'm trying to think, like, I know like Castlevania, like we played a lot, and that was kind of your game.
Symphony of the Night was your game.
That was way later. But I mean, when we were kids, right? When we first had Nintendos, like we didn't even have very many games.
Right.
You know, and you had to just kind of played what you had.
We played a shitload of Arch Rivals.
I know, I was good. I remember that. We definitely played a lot of Arch Rivals. And we played Rygar a lot.
We did play Rygar a lot. Did we play Kung Fu, or do we play like?
We played Kung Fu a lot.
Did we play RC Pro-Am at your house? For some reason,
no, I mean, we played it some, but I don't know how much. I mean, I don't know. And I mean, it's tough, right? Because you can't really play, because a lot of the games we like Metroid or something, like that's a fucking long ass game for one person to play. Like you can't really take turns playing it.
Kid Icarus, I feel like I was
similar.
introduced to that at your house.
Yeah, I borrowed that for a little while. I didn't actually own it.
Okay.
But probably. There's some other games I was thinking of. Bionic Commando. That was another one that I played a lot.
Yeah. That's another game that I, when I went through that period, I made myself beat that game.
That's just a really fun game.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
If you're playing nothing but its contemporaries and then you suddenly play that, it's a little bit jarring just for the first level until you get the hang of not being able to jump. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then once it clicks,
then it's different than anything else. And I love just the music of it. Actually, just that little ambient.
The map screen. Yeah. It's. And even the little animation of those little army dudes that are giving you the intelligence, they're like, you feel like you don't want to let those guys down.
Oh, yeah.
They're so earnest.
No, that's pretty close to a perfect game.
I actually beat. I loved that game so much.
Then you get to kill Hitler at the end. Literally, the best game ever.
Probably the best ending scene. Yeah, and they don't. And that's another one of those endings that is like in gaming lore.
Yeah.
I remember you sending a text, like, must have been like 15 years now. Coworker just referred to Wind Waker as old school Zelda. I think your comment was kids today or something like that. Because that felt like contemporary new Zelda still, you know?
Yeah. No, well, not only that, it's just it's not
old school Zelda.
It's not old school Zelda.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that was the little doll you got me when you were in Japan. You got me the little red Link.
Oh yeah, a little fire suit Link. Yep. Cool.
And I had that on my desk, and he walks by. He's like, "Oh, that's awesome." He's like, "I love old school Zelda," and that does not make me feel good because
never talk to me again. Oh man,
he doesn't work there anymore.
Oh yeah. He doesn't work anymore. He doesn't work anywhere. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how much Mario you and I played.
I don't know. Well, when I was a kid, so that was another one too. I was wondering, like, what were the games for you where you just like you go back to and you would beat like from time to time? Because Super Mario 2 was that for me when I was a kid. And I don't know, we didn't play much Mario, me and you.
Mario. So for me, my recollection, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but so I know that Mario 2 came out when we were in 7th grade, and we weren't hanging out as much in 7th grade. We hung out a lot more in 6th and 8th. And
Probably.
And so it came out for holidays, 1988. And so that would have been 7th grade year was 88, 89 for us. And but Super Mario 2 and Super Mario 1 are like games, both of them, that I did go back and beat all the time. They are like comfort food for gaming. And Super Mario 1 has always remained like a steady nostalgic favorite for me. I never got tired of it. But Super Mario 2, I would say, has grown on me more and more as I've gotten older. The music, like once a month, the music from that game just gets stuck in my head out of nowhere. And I love it every time. Yeah. And something so wonderful about that first level with just the blue background and the green, and you're just pulling vegetables, and just such a catchy tune. Like I could play that game for so long. I love it.
Yeah. No.
Super Mario 3 is less. I know that it's like everybody's favorite, and or a lot of people's favorite, and I don't dislike it, but it doesn't. I don't feel like
it's short. No, I get it. I actually loved it at the time. I used to play that when we were in high school, early high school. I would play Super Mario 3 fairly frequently. And at the time, I remember like thinking that I liked it the best. But I agree with you. I don't. It doesn't have the nostalgia for the others that it does for me. And I still play Super Mario 2. In fact, I was just playing it with my youngest daughter. And she used to love playing as Peach, and she loves all the Mario games, so she's playing those. And so like then we play Mario Odyssey, and she's like, "Why do you have to be Mario?" And she's so upset in all of these games. You can just be Mario, and you can't play as like Peach, or like even in Mario 3D World that there's only the one girl character, and then there's 3 that you have to play. She's like, "But what if I want to have a friend over, and then we have to argue over who gets to be Peach? Why can't you just play as like girls in these?" And yeah. She's like, "It's not fair," and I'm just like, "Yeah, you're right. It's not fair. I'm sorry." But you're right. It's not fair.
Yeah, you can earn Rosalina, but you have to beat it. Yeah.
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 So I've had some time on my hands, and I went back and I played through Bagman. Now, have we ever talked about that? You know that arcade game?
I only know that you love it because that's the marquee that you were after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you played it much when you were a kid, but it was like the bane of my existence as a kid. It's super hard. Even like getting through the first level is super hard. And I made that like just my goal this weekend, and I finally did it yesterday. I played so many hours this weekend.
So when you say bane of your existence, like you played it, you remember, like, was it at Fred Meyer's as a kid, or was it?
I mean, it was at no, like it wasn't a super common one, right? So they didn't have it that many places. We went to, I don't know where it was. Like we were just in this small little community, and they had like one like general store, Yeah. And Bagman was the only game they had there. And like I would just always, I was probably like 8, right? And I was just bored on this little family vacation in this podunk little town, and I just kept asking, my mom for like a couple bucks to go down there. But it eats through your quarters so fast that it's not even fair. And yeah, I was just dying left and right, but I finally got through the first level.
That was your first time ever getting through the first level?
Yeah. It's been bugging me for like 35 years or something, and I was so pumped when I got through it. I was like, yes.
That's actually that's pretty cool. You know, I can relate, not recently, but I can relate to that feeling of a dream deferred and being like, oh, I finally done this and I never have to do it again. But
Yeah.
but it's always been in the back of my head. That like that. I think last time we were talking about Zelda 2 was that for me. I can't think of many arcade games that I stuck to.
Yeah.
They were all so hard.
They're all just designed to take your quarters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it wasn't really until we got home consoles that they started building deeper games that just weren't trying to kill you immediately, because they, you know, you were a captured audience at that point, right? Versus you'd already paid for it. Rather, they're always trying to get you to, you know, give more. Like they were totally just training us to give them money.
Yeah. Yeah. They had it down to a science. I think it was like per quarter they were not supposed to. Playtime per quarter is under a minute and a half or something like that's right. Your goal. And it's like, ugh. But you're right. So I can think of two examples of the at-home versions were like much deeper and better. It was like Bionic Commando, and because the arcade of Bionic Commando was awful. It was terrible. And then the same with Rygar. Like the arcade version of Rygar was not nearly as deep. It wasn't a big adventure, obviously. No one's gonna be sitting around plugging quarters into a Zelda game.
Yeah, no. You're absolutely right on both of those. As you know, I mean, Bionic Commando is one of my favorites. So, and yeah, I've tried to play the arcade one, even just because, honestly, because I'm such a huge fan. I'm like, I feel like
you should.
I know it's a stupid sentiment, but I'm like, I actually like Bionic Commando enough that I want to like play through every iteration of it just to experience it and see what it is in comparison. But like even since now that you can get it on places that allow me to like save and stuff, just I still can't be bothered to play through more than like a couple levels of it.
Yeah, it's the same way I am with it's the exact same way I am with Demon Castle, which was the original Castlevania, which was an arcade game in Japan. You can play it on the Switch. You know, I own it on the Switch, and it's just garbage.
Yeah,
the graphics look kind of nice, but terrible game.
Yeah, that's the same way with Bionic Commando. Like graphically, it looks nice. It's this bright kind of cartoony kind of thing. In some ways, the mechanics are similar, where you have the bionic arm and you can go up levels. But yeah, it's just there's nothing to it. Like, yeah, Bionic Commando is, you know, I know that like you didn't have any, you know, a ton of real choices, but like it felt like you did, and you had, you know, little dialogue scenes, and I don't know, everything about it was just way better.
Yeah, even the diversity of levels, you know, with your typical snow and ice, like all the levels were so bright in their own way. I liked them. We couldn't continue talking about NES games if we hadn't beaten that game. I would need to just stop and go beat it, because I can't possibly consider myself a huge NES fan without having killed Hitler.
Very true.
Just something you have to do if you
have to do that as a child of the 80s.
Yeah,
it was just part of our training as children of the 80s.
Yeah,
you know, they put you through a little simulation where you're buying a commando and you kill Hitler.
If you don't live out of the 80s. Yeah.
Ronald Reagan personally shoots you in the head.
Yeah, that was such a great game. That and Contra, Russian Attack. I love those military games from that era that were like G.I. Joe, just over the top bullshit.
Yeah. Now, did we ever play Contra?
Yeah, I swear we must have. I mean, I beat that all the time as a sixth grader. Is that Bill and Lance? And then I think the Double Dragon guys are like Billy and Jimmy Lee. They're brothers.
Yeah, they're brothers. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
they fight each other.
That's one that I used to beat from time to time.
Yeah, I don't think I ever beat that on the NES, but I beat it on the Wii U Virtual Console.
I beat it on the NES, but it was just, you know, that was like, you know, I could do it. Like I've done it, but like I probably would do it. Like after I got good at it, I would probably be able to accomplish that 25% of the time.
Yeah.
you know, maybe like 33% of the time. And it's just, is it worth it for me at that point? Once you've done it once, like,
yeah.
And occasionally I would get that in my head where I'm like, I want to do it. And I would try.
Mhm.
And, you know, and I got through it another probably 2 or 3 times in my life. But I don't know. I'm like, that's hard.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know if I would do that. I beat it with save states.
Yeah. I would beat it with save states now. I just haven't tried it again. But yeah, I might actually. Now that you mention it.
The music in that NES port
is awesome.
Phenomenal. Yeah, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's playing in my head right now. And with the sound effects from punching.
Yeah, no, it's one of the best soundtracks that there's ever been.
Yeah, it's underappreciated. I've never really said it out loud that game. I don't know if I realized.
Yeah, that game rocks, man.
Yeah, before the only option for a beat 'em up was on the NES was like Renegade, which was awful controls. I remember the box art for that one was in those Nintendo Fun Club magazines. It just made me like, advertising got me, you know. I was this game looks awesome. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I'm sure.
Beat people up on the subway. You know?
Who doesn't want to beat people up on the subway?
yeah. There were punks. You get to beat up the punks.
You got to beat up those carps, man.
yeah. It just looked great.
I don't remember playing it, but I bet I did. And I remember looking forward to Double Dragon, and like, because I'd already played that in the arcade, and that's like one of the first games I remember because I'd read about in probably Fun Club newsletter or something that like, oh, this is coming out, and you know, I'd played it in the arcade, and like that's about as much possible like advanced knowledge of like a game coming out as I could have at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
There weren't really many other opportunities for that. Like I don't think there'd been a single sequel really of a game made yet. So
yeah,
something that I'd played before coming to Nintendo was pretty big deal.
Yeah, I feel like as far as something could be hyped back then, Double Dragon was pretty hyped because it was so successful in the arcade.
Yeah.
Even before it came out, I remember the screenshots in like either the Fun Club newsletter or the Nintendo Power. And I remember being like underwhelmed, like what? Having to like taper my expectations. And yeah, it was a completely different game, but it was awesome.
Now, have you played through Double Dragon in the arcade?
I don't know. I'm sure I have it, but I don't know if I've played through it.
Did you play it in the arcade?
I used to play it in the arcade all the time. Yeah.
How far do you think you got in the arcade? Never.
Maybe I did beat it if I had enough quarters. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I must have beaten it with somebody at like Wonderland or something, because they always had them at the nickel arcades.
Yeah.
And it seems like it wouldn't have been taken that much to do that, right? Like,
yeah, probably less.
That kind of game. But you could do like the Simpsons arcade game, right?
Or I was gonna say, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Yeah. It's just as far as you want to go. I really liked that game in the arcade, and I was excited for the NES version. And while it seemed like a different experience, I still liked it.
Yeah.
They had 3 of them on the NES.
Did they?
Yeah.
I think I've only played the first one. Have you played any of the others?
No, and I've never owned them physically.
We may need to add those to our list to give a try.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying those.